is. Hi, everybody all over America. This is your cousin Brucey. It's the WABC Party Go Go. Woo!
In the 1960s, AM radio DJs had more freedom with their playlists. Along with the mix of rock, pop, soul, country, and jazz, novelty records occasionally made their way to the top 10. Most were one-hit wonders with no significant follow-ups. Rarely could an artist make a career from novelty tunes. In that decade, the most prominent examples were Alan Sherman,
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Camp Granada.
Ray Stevens, and for a year and a half, a middle-aged housewife from Claremont, California. Before continuing to this episode, please do me a favor. Hit the like, subscribe, and watch this video all the way through to help the algorithm take notice. Also, please consider helping fund future episodes that will uncover unusual movies, music, and TV shows through Buy Me a Coffee. If you prefer single donations, you can support me through PayPal. Links for both are in the description below. Mrs. Elva Miller was a mid-60s media sensation thrust into a music world going through seismic revolutions. While young America was digging groups like the Beatles, the Beach Boys, and the Supremes, Mrs. Miller provided a sudden shock to the system, possessing what could be best described as a mix between opera dumpster diva Florence Foster Jenkins and Mayberry's most famous matron Aunt Bee. She added her trademark quaking vibrato and whistling techniques for a persona all her own. Mrs. Miller was active in many community and church organizations, including the Claremont Presbyterian Church Choir. As the wife of professional investor John Richardson Miller, she was quite judicious with money. However, she willingly spent it on private recordings in good studios with seasoned musicians. One of those musicians was Fred Bach, a pianist with a sharp sense of humor. He introduced her recordings to KFWB's DJ Gary Owens years before his national fame as the announcer for Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In.
When NBC announced another season of Laugh-In, they said it shouldn't be done.
Owens recorded an album called Song Festoons, on which he played Earl C. Festoon, and Elva, credited as Mrs. John Miller, played his wife, Phoebe, singing Slumber Boat.
Only don't forget to sail back again to me.
Lovely, dear. Lovely.
Baby, say
She could have remained a comedy curio were it not for unusual circumstances. Bach introduced the Claremont Warbler to producer Lex de Azevedo at Capitol Records. De Azevedo was the son of Alice King Clark, one of the solo artists of the famed King family. The Kings were well connected in the entertainment industry, but Lex was a very devout Mormon who had recently undergone grueling missionary assignments. Hoping he would work with top-notch Capitol artists like Glenn Campbell, De Azevedo was instead assigned to finding new talent. With a daunting task ahead of him, he saw an opportunity with Mrs. Miller. She was brought into the studio and, according to her, was given unfamiliar top 10 hit songs to sing with little time to rehearse them. In addition, she claimed studio staff intentionally miscued her to sing at the wrong moments. De Azevedo remembers it differently.
I had another record called a comedy record called Mrs. Miller, and first hit I ever produced. It was an elderly lady that had the worst possible voice you could ever imagine, and she would start one beat late and sing the whole song one beat behind. Now you can't. How can you do that? As a musician, it's impossible.
these boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
But the charm is that her complete unawareness of how horrible she was. So it was really cruel when I look back. I think we took it in it was really cruel. Put her in the recording studio, and all the musicians started cracking up. So I had to shield her because everybody was laughing. I mean, it's really horrible when you think about it. But anyway, she made a lot of money and became famous.
Her studio musicians were not incompetent. In fact, among the noted talents backing her were bassist Jimmy Bond and drummer Earl Palmer, both of whom were part of the Wrecking Crew, the fantastic backing band for the Beach Boys, Sonny and Cher, and virtually all the legends of Phil Spector's record label. Mrs. Miller herself was a music student at Pomona College and took her studies seriously, so the idea she was an unskilled singer really doesn't fly. In fact, part of her appeal is that she did have a good ear for pitch, and when properly guided, was able to get into the groove. What made her distinct on record was the vocal tone, like a stately dowager with a folksy twist. But the factors that made Mrs. Miller's immortality were warmth and authenticity. She didn't create a character, she was one. And that was the secret as to how her debut album, Mrs. Miller's Greatest Hits, became a smash, reaching an astonishing number 15 on the top 100 album charts. Her 45 single release of Downtown, backed by A Lover's Concerto, also did surprisingly well, reaching number 82 and number 95 on the pop charts respectively.
Mrs. Miller, you were never better.
Her genuine nature and gumption personalized every tune she sang. You simply can't hear the original versions of A Hard Day's Night and These Boots Are Made for Walkin' the same way again after hearing Elva's takes. Mrs. Miller's surprise celebrity status took her on a whirlwind of appearances. She graced TV screens singing on The Merv Griffin Show, The Mike Douglas Show, Art Linkletter's House Party, twice on The Ed Sullivan Show, and even toured with the USO. Most notably, she appeared on shows geared towards youngsters, American Bandstand, Where the Action Is, The Groovy Show, and a memorable stint on Malibu U, hosted by rock legend Rick Nelson.
Hello, Mrs. Miller.
Hello, Dean.
Mrs. Miller, the timbre of your voice broke the glass.
You're lucky. It usually breaks the table.
I mean, come on, who wouldn't love Mrs. Miller sailing above Malibu Beach on a camera crane singing Let's Hang On, with the follow-up act being Leonard Nimoy singing As a testament to her likability, Mrs. Miller sang the final song in the movie musical The Cool Ones, starring Roddy McDowall and with a soundtrack written mostly by Lee Hazelwood.
You say the song begins, you speak, and I hear violins, it's magic. The stars desert the skies and rise to nestle in your eyes, it's magic.
Mrs. Miller was riding high, but the times, they were a-changin'. As Elva Miller flew over Malibu Beach, the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album was already in the number 1 slot for 2 months and would remain there for another 2, changing American pop culture immensely. As much as American youth liked the grandmotherly presence of Mrs. Miller, there was a limit. The joke was extended through 2 additional albums, Will Success Spoil Mrs. Miller and The Country Soul of Mrs. Miller. Neither performed as well as their debut. Their underwhelming chart showings, along with the Azevedo's growing disillusionment with the pop music world, spelled the end of Mrs. Miller at Capitol Records. In 1968, Miller moved to the Amaret label and recorded what I consider to be one of the decade's best underground masterpieces. Mrs. Miller Does Her Thing goes in a multitude of directions with disparate themes. It begins with their indignation of pornography with the renaissance of smut.
Restaurant business has improved since the tops have been removed. No one really disapproved in the renaissance of smut.
It's clear she really believes this, but what's truly amazing is how she seemed unaware of how much the rest of the album undermined the first track's conservative stance, starting with the album's closer,
Granny Bopper, make way for her. Granny Bopper, hooray for her. You can't stop her. She's wild as can be. Granny Bopper, that's me.
Much of the rest of the album had pro-pot songs, but with lyrics cleverly hiding overt references. Among those titles were the hilarious tunes Green Thumb, My Pet, and The Roach. The Cole Porter song, I Sleep Easier Now, I feel was probably included to fit the album's weed theme, even though I think it's Mrs. Miller's finest recording.
When I was snappier, when I was snappier, I made lots of boyfriends happier. I sleep easier now, I sleep easier now.
The album cover was to die for, with Mrs. Miller donning a wildly colorful dress, winking and holding a plate of spiked brownies. She was reportedly horrified at learning why they were green. Mrs. Miller may have been hip to youngsters' pop music, but she clearly was not a counterculture figure. The album, which must have felt like yet another betrayal of her good nature, failed, and she went back to self-funding her own recordings. Although the subsequent singles on her own label, Mrs. Miller Records, never charted, they did bring her back to jazzy material that seemed to suit her presence a little better.
Oh, she had to go and lose it at the Astor. She didn't take her mother's good advice.
Mrs. Miller continued to perform at benefits until she officially retired in 1973. She died in 1997 at the age of 89. 25 years after her death, Mrs. Miller still has a resounding influence on pop music. She set the standard measured against subsequent artists like Wing, Ice J.J. Fish, Rebecca Black, and William Hung. Through her 18 months of media glory, Mrs. Elva Miller took her self-deprecating humor gracefully. She knew how to entertain audiences by simply being herself. Immortalized now on CDs, a memorial website, and a musical by Broadway legend James Lapine, Mrs. Miller, it seems, has had the last laugh.
I'm gonna be
Thanks for watching! Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support this channel through the links in the description below. And check out this video about the only TV series ever canceled because it was too successful. See you soon!